What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi back with my man Eric Sheets-Haber for BetQL TV for our own channel. We're going to be doing the NFL breakdown for this week, week 5. It's going to be, well, we still don't know entirely who's playing. There's all the COVID rumors. We don't know what's happening with the Jets, but we're going to treat it like whoever we know is playing right now is playing, and we'll go from there, Sheets, right? That's all we can do.
Yeah, so what I'm going to I just noticed I'm going to share my screen, and I don't know whether this is them trying to be cutesy or whatever it is, but like I'm looking at the DraftKings, with the postponement listing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you see, like they list Cam Newton C19 postponed.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
I mean, thanks.
A little tasteless.
A little bit. Okay, so do you want to go game by game or position by position?
I think game by game is the only way.
Got it.
All right. So this first game is the one we're worried about, right? Like, I mean, Arizona, the Jets, and Sheets, if you don't mind clicking on them real quick so we can get a quick look at the players. I think that was one.
Right. I saw that.
If we get that. This is a game I have a ton of interest in personally, and I think that Arizona can put up a ton of points. I love assuming that everything goes well. Kyler Murray this week at no ownership. And I love just going back to this Kyler Murray Hopkins and run it back with either Crowder or my man Le'Veon Bell at 5,100 coming off the injury, or both in a hammer stack. I don't mind any of this. The Arizona defense has been spotty at times. The Jets, I think actually, they're like, I don't know. I think you're going to see a ton of targets for Jamison Crowder in this matchup, and it makes him sort of an interesting play on DraftKings just for that reason alone, especially because I like the Hopkins with Murray stack already at a lower ownership than it usually would be. I also don't mind Christian Kirk, by the way, or taking a long shot in a huge field on Isabella. This guy, I'm telling you, he's going to put up 20 every now and then. He's going to have 2 big plays in a game. He's got lightning quick speed, and Murray can extend plays and get the ball downfield. But Christian Kirk would seem to be the more obvious guy of the two, even though neither of them are going to have ownership. Kirk might have a couple % or something. But I like this game. It's not my favorite game, but it's definitely a game that I have some stacks of right now, and I like it just like I said it. Mostly it's going to be Kyler to Hopkins running it back with Crowder. And what I like about this week, and we'll get more into it, I guess it's important to talk about it. We have all these situations where we haven't needed the quarterback when we've been stacking 2 receivers, and you still don't need to this week, but there's less running quarterbacks on the slate. So where I play Kyler and I just do that little 3-man mini stack from this game, or even a 4-man, I can also play Herndon, by the way. He's the other one I have some interest in. I think that you get some. I don't know. You're just going to be different than the field. You can still build the stacks in the other games that we really like.
What about some of those other jokers from the Jets? Jeff Smith. I don't know. I didn't really look too much into it, but a couple of guys started popping out as points per dollar guys that I just kind of ignored. I will say, by the way, I'm not going to get to Jamison Crowder on DraftKings, but just for anybody that's remotely interested in this, he's really super cheap on Yahoo.
So I don't play on Yahoo.
I know. That's why I figured I would bring it up.
I need to know So is the format PPR or is it
half?
So it's same as Graham. So that's why he's probably cheap, but still.
I'm just saying, even relative to his projections and stuff, he
stands out.
Yeah.
I just think as a PPR, he definitely makes some sense this week. But again, look, there's better options than him in this price range. For me, it's only if you're going to play some of the other side of it, basically, that I'm going to play Crowder.
Okay.
That's the way I'm treating it. But again, I really like this. I like Lamar so much better than the other quarterbacks in some sense. Like, I mean, we've got the little bit of a banged up situation for a great option in that we're going to talk about, and obviously. Why can't I think of his name? Lamar Jackson. But mostly we just don't. We don't have some of the other guys we've had, and we don't have Josh Allen out there this week. So other than Kyler does sort of stand out along with Lamar as being the obvious running quarterbacks you want to take advantage of, and I don't think that many people are going to do it.
Yeah. I'm probably just not going to. I just don't know if I'm going to get here to this game. That's just my. That's just my take. Whatever. Okay, you want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Carolina, Atlanta is one of going to be, and it's funny, like every I don't know if it was always like this, but every week there seems to be like 2 or 3 games that just garner just all the all the discussion and all the ownership and all the whatever. And this is certainly one of them. Because, when you have teams like Atlanta and Dallas just give up just so many freaking yards and so many points, it's like kind of hard to fade their situations, So even when you have a team like Carolina, it's so funny that who would have thought that Carolina with like no McCaffrey would end up being just like an offense that everybody just had to target. You know what I mean? It's a little strange when you think about it. But anyway, guys popping are DJ Moore and Mike Davis and Robbie Anderson on Carolina. They're all going to be owned, and this is one of the problems I'm having. With the GPP aspect of this week's slate, I'm finding it hard to find that much real off the board stuff. But we'll try to get there.
I don't think I think there's great spots in this game we can get off the board.
Well, let's talk about them because I figured everybody in this game would be chalky. So
it depends on what people do with Zacchaeus, right?
I figure he's like. I mean, he's going to be extremely popular, no?
I think he'll have ownership, but that depends on. Look, if we're going to play mostly running backs, and the people are mostly going to play running backs in the flex, although you can play wide receiver this week for sure. How many wide receivers can you really pick, man? And we've got the Dallas receivers, which I actually advise these receivers over the Dallas receivers this week. Personally, I like this game better. This is the one I want to be overweight on. The guy who I'll be like, okay, so DJ Moore is going to have ownership, but I think Robbie Anderson is going to have a decent amount more, and I will absolutely take DJ Moore all day over Robbie Anderson.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
By a long shot. I love Russell Gage here. He's going to have ownership. That's fine with me. Okay. I like Calvin Ridley, but I could see myself deciding to fade him. But again, with game stacks, you can go for it. I don't think anyone's going to play Hayden Hurst, who I like a lot in this spot. At 4.7, I've got him in some of my big builds already. The other weird one is Ian Thomas. I mean, we've seen all these positions light up. So when you're going to have some potentially low owned spots, do we really have Zacchaeus as that low? Like, I've only seen one person write him up. I've heard his name mentioned a lot by people, but I haven't seen any projections of him above 10%.
Well, I find it difficult to believe that he's not
probably right.
Hey, who knows? Whatever. But one reason why he might actually, and this is one of my stupid conspiracy theories, whatever, is that I think if he were 3,100, like he'd be like 25% owned. But like if he's 3K, some people are like, oh, really? He's minimum? Maybe he's just bad. I don't know. Maybe just whatever. But
I will drop another guy. And here's another thing that, look, if for some reason Zacchaeus becomes like 20% owned, just immediately jump over to Wilson on Dallas at zero. Will have to be 0% ownership. Who had basically the same thing as Zacchaeus had last week. A couple weeks ago, and they are like he's got a ton of talent. So that's your pivot right there if you do run into that.
So just so you know, I mean, again, people have been asking me about this. So I am going to remember to go over who the guys I have in my 2+2 in my cash, and I am going to be playing Mike Davis. We'll talk about him in a second. Mike Davis and probably Robbie Anderson for now, and Zacchaeus all in the cash game lineup. They're just all so cheap. And it's so funny to say that Mike Davis is cheap at 6,400, right? But just Atlanta's just become that team again. You know what I mean? That you just got to play everybody against them. They give up points, and then when they play well for a while, then they give up points in third and fourth quarter. It's just kind of hard to not play some of these guys. I might get off of Anderson for DJ Moore or something like that. It's possible. This is what I'm doing initially. I guess, again, watch your ownerships and, we'll see what happens.
I mean, I understand it's concerning to people that DJ Moore hasn't gotten as many the targets lately, but I just would say that just in terms of overall talent, I like Robbie Anderson as a home run threat who can be low. I mean, look, this guy is like a guy we were paying 3K for last year, and he was putting up, he's still these crazy games sometimes. I just think DJ Moore is the better overall receiver. There's nothing that scares me about anybody they're going to match up with him, Isaiah Oliver, any of them. There's just nobody. I really like DJ Moore. So I'm citing he would be like I think he might be my highest owned receiver. I think this is the game you're overweight on. The only spot I won't be overweight on in this game, even at high ownership, is going to be Gurley. I will not be ahead of the field on Gurley.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm doing in this is different than what I'm doing in probably my GPPs.
I mean, there's a great pivot off Mike Davis. The problem is people are just going to play them together, and that's Josh Jacobs, which we'll get into a little later.
Yeah.
This is the game you want from the first half of the day, though. It's like as the obvious one, obviously.
Anything else in this game? Probably play everybody, right?
I mean, I really do want to be overweight on all those guys, but I really like. I mean, again, I don't know what the ownership's going to end up on Zacchaeus, but I love him in general here. I would have paid 4K for him this week. I wish he was more expensive, actually. I don't care about the price. I love Hayden Hurst as a low-owned play in this game. Yeah, I mean, it's basically ahead. I guess you could make an argument for being below the field on Ridley, maybe switching the ownership, going over to DeAndre Hopkins, who seems like a much safer play than Ridley, and for some reason is going to be much lower owned. And I don't think the matchup is bad for either of them. So Ridley had no catches the other night, like getting none on Monday, and that was without Julio for 3 quarters. So if you want to fade anybody at high ownership, maybe it's Ridley. Although, again, he's one of those guys who, as Sheets can attest to, when he goes off, you kind of need to have him to win.
The Rams Washington. We were both kind of right, but I made it a point to mention, I just knew the Rams would be like uber flat against the Giants last week,
Yeah.
And they were, man. They threatened to lose that game for like a while. I think they're going to come out and play much better today.
That's the question, Sheets. Is maybe the Giants' offense just really bad, and maybe their defense isn't bad? Because I actually thought even against like the Steelers, I know that was week 1, but like I didn't think they looked bad in that game.
Now, the thing about the Giants is they try, so they're not going to get run out of. They're just, it's unlikely they really ever get run out of the building. That's the thing. And it's a new coach who's people they like playing for, so they try their best. That Daniel Jones, man, I am kind of a Giant fan. I want to like him. He's a nice guy. Whatever. He just sucks. I mean, like. When they were walking, they were driving down the field, down 8 against the Rams. I'm like, he's just going to throw an interception eventually. I just know he is, and you just have that faith that it's going to happen. It just does. And it's his weapons aren't that great, whatever. But he just doesn't. He just stinks. Okay. So anyway, I think the Rams are going to play a little bit better this week against Washington. I didn't really want to play anybody from the Rams, but I wanted to ask you about this, because I'm not a big time cash game guy, and I don't like, I just not. But if you were, isn't this one of those things where you're just supposed to play Kyle Allen at 4,100, or is that just not necessary?
What am I missing here?
What?
Oh, you mean quarter? I'm sorry, I was like thinking.
Yeah.
I personally don't know that it's necessary.
Okay.
But at the same time, it is kind of crazy.
I mean, every quarterback gets 15 fantasy points, right? I mean,
you remember what's been different this year is the quarterbacks have been scoring like 35 to 45 fantasy points, and that's why.
Okay, yeah.
But wait, this is the week where you don't maybe need that so much, because we don't have that spot, which is what made me look towards Kyler Murray so much, and even the good spot for Baltimore. That's a rainy game with an injured quarterback. Are they going to put his well-being on the line when they're a 12-point favorite? Maybe this is the week where you can get a 16 or a 20 out of Kyle Allen, pair him up with a guy who I don't like this game. If I was going to play this game, I would want to play Cooper Kupp instead of Robert Woods. But it would be with Allen, and my favorite play in this game is Antonio Gibson. I really like Antonio Gibson, and then I think first of all, I like him as a player. I think he's the real deal. I think he's their guy. He's incredibly talented. He's got breakability. We haven't seen him have that huge breakout play. I think he might have had a couple. Actually, he had a couple runs. One against Arizona, one against Cleveland. But I've been calling for his monster breakout game. He just, against the best run defense in football, supposedly, he just put up 22 last week. I think Antonio Gibson, and also you have a new quarterback in Kyle. Like maybe he even gets more usage with this. With Allen, who knows? Maybe Allen has to use him as a safety net. Maybe he ends up with like 10 targets. That's completely possible for a guy who's not quite as elusive as Dwayne Haskins is. So I think Antonio Gibson is my long shot play of the week that I'm going to have like 25-30% of. Maybe I'll be a little bit lower by the end, but that's where I'm at right now, and I feel good about it. I feel like there's enough upside, and there's going to be no ownership, and it's a funny price tier that most people aren't going to pay at. Or they're certainly not going to play him. I would rather play him than David Johnson, for example. Even though I like David Johnson to have a higher floor, probably, I think Gibson has the monster ceiling.
So what I was going to say is in my quest to try to find guys at positions that might not be that high owned, I was thinking of Terry McLaurin as the wide receiver to fit that bill. The only problem is that, I mean, the Rams are not idiots either. You know what I mean? They know that he's like clearly their number one target. So Jalen Ramsey's going to be freaking all over him, and they're going to be like, well, they know that Kyle Allen's going to be staring at him. You know what I mean? So it's going to be tough for him to really just run wild. You know, he could certainly get garbage time points if the Rams start doing their, having a good game and getting a big lead. But it's a little scary, honestly. But I again, just to find somebody lower owned, I did like McLaurin.
Yeah, I would say that also, if it was a smaller slate, if it was a 3-game slate, maybe you play him in. But again, I don't want most of this game. I really love the angle for Gibson here. I think with that pass rush, they're just going to have to dump it out. You see how Aaron Donald plays, and that's what has to happen against the Rams. You're going to get these little drop-offs.
Well, what about doing the opposite? What about not the opposite ones? You could do the dump off the Logan Thomas thing too.
I'm sorry, I do have Logan Thomas at 15%. I don't know why I didn't mention him.
Okay.
Sometimes when with the way that I've got my thing formatted, it doesn't include certain positions because I'm clicking the wrong button. But Logan Thomas, I feel fine about also. So I guess, and I do think it's a tough matchup for. I just think paying that for McLaurin feels wrong. But if you're going to stack Kyle Allen, give it one go. You know what I mean? He could break free. He's a great receiver. They're not going to have They might have Ramsey on him almost all the time, but I don't know. I still would give it a shot if I was going to stack it. But overall, not my favorite game. Having said so much about it, we can move on to the next one probably.
Yeah, I didn't have anything from Philly Pitt, so I'll let you talk about it. I mean, I saw obviously big Ben Roethlisberger is like 2% on probably, so you could always play him, I guess. But I had nothing particular that I really liked from this game. So whatever you think.
This is one of my 6. I mean, look, there's a lot, but one of the 6 spots that I'm looking at. Obviously, Arizona and the Jets are just like a 3-man stack version. Carolina, Atlanta, I'm using like a lot of 3-mans from them, even in the same ones as Arizona and the Jets. And then also, look, we'll see about Arizona and the Jets even playing, so I can always cross them off. But Pittsburgh's side of this, the offensive side, I have a lot of interest in. I think James Conner at low ownership is a great pivot off of Davis. I think that Deontay Johnson's going to be popular. I like Deontay Johnson still, and I like Ertz and Sanders on the other side against. I think it's a tough matchup. You're probably going to need one of your tight ends to block more because of how often Pittsburgh blitzes. But I still think Ertz has to run routes for this team to have a chance to move the ball. So Ertz and Sanders are the ones who stand out on that side. And I have a full on in one of my big buy-ins, not my huge buy-ins, but probably a few $100s assigned to it. But I've got literally a full stack with Roethlisberger, Connor, Juju, and Deontay Johnson running it back with Ertz and Sanders. Because if we've seen this happen with that offense before, especially when they're at home in Pittsburgh. I know they don't have the fans and everything, but still, I have to have some interest here in this stack a little bit. So it's probably number 5 or 6 for me, but it's definitely going to have some exposure. And the guys who will be in a good portion of my lineups, even separate from the stacks, will be Ertz and Johnson and Connor. Yeah,
I think that the other thing you could do if you want to play all those Pittsburgh guys, just say screw all the run backs and play Pittsburgh defense and 33-0. One of those. That's certainly possible. On the Philly side, though, I didn't really look at it, but is what's his name going to get the start again and play? Oh, he's up to 4,600, but Greg Ward.
I have no interest in him. I get it. I would just default to Deshaun if I was going to play one of them. Okay.
Do you want to do Cincinnati, Baltimore?
Yeah, this one I don't like the weather initial stuff. I hope it's not sloppy because this was initially what I wanted to target as a game, but I've sort of come off of it a little bit. What do you sort of think about this one?
Yeah, I like a low-owned Mixon again, especially with a Q tag, whatever it is. But the general consensus is that Baltimore's a really, really big favorite, and Cincinnati's going to have to play from behind or whatever it is. But how many times are we going to play Joe Mixon at low ownership? And last week you didn't have enough of him. You play him every freaking week, right?
Oh, man.
And if you had the normal amount relative to the field that you could have last week, I mean, who knows how the luck of the lineup scripts could have ended up? You know what I mean?
Seriously, I genuinely could have won the million with the way that my million lineups were stacked.
So I do like him. I mean, I like him in all game scripts. You want to know the truth? Let him try to come from behind and dump it off or whatever. I do think that and we talked about this about Burrow, and there's going to be a game where he blows up. I just don't see it this week, man. I just don't. I think Baltimore's coming off that loss, and it was I tell you, man, the press really hammered them on that one. I mean, like, they were like, oh, Baltimore's just not ready. They're just not in the same class as Kansas City. Whole thing. I don't know, man. But since the Giants lost to them in the Super Bowl, I mean, that whole season, I know they're all different teams and different players, but you never want to screw with like an angry Ravens team. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. I don't think this is the time to be messing with Joe Burrow. I think that
No, I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying. I think Baltimore smokes them. I think that the Ravens defense is almost a lock. And I would play a pick six prop if I had to. You know, whatever it is. I really just think that it's a really tough time for the Cincinnati to be competitive in this game. But I do like Mixon at really, really low ownership, and I can't think of anybody to play on the Baltimore.
I think Baltimore's defense is very close with the Rams, by the way, because there is a path where with Darren Donald that Kyle Allen gets sacked somehow like 6 times, turns it over 3, and they have 2 fumble recoveries for touchdowns. Like,
and a Jalen Ramsey pick 6. I mean, like all this.
Exactly. That's the one thing about the Rams. I mean, we should always look at the Rams as a defense like that. This is a defense that can put up points because they have so many, like, they have weapons in their defense. It's really weird. They give up points, but they actually they've got monsters. Anyway, I like the. I'm gonna always be ahead of the field on Lamar Jackson in general. Especially when other guys are down, I just don't see reasons not to take shots on the highest ceiling quarterbacks with what is usually the highest floor. I know the games haven't been the same this year. We haven't gotten a Lamar Jackson game, and he still put up 26 or better twice. And I think if we can get that 30+ game here, maybe in that hammer like you're talking about. The problem is trying to pair him with anybody is really hard. Marquise Brown, I think they're going to want to get him loose at some point. This might be a good opportunity for it. You'd love to take the tight end against Cincinnati here, so Mark Andrews would be my preferred guy. So that's sort of what I've got in my Lamar stacks. But and then I'm going to run back a little bit. I know it feels awful. I know it's gross. But I'm going to take a shot on AJ Green one more time. I'm going to take a 5% or a 3% stance on Boyd and Higgins. I just want them in a little bit of my Lamar exposed lineups, just because I think they're going to have to throw the ball so much.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, I think you will get some garbage time run out of that.
You wanted the super brain play would be on be for a showdown or a 2-game slate would be if you played Lamar with DuVernay and the Baltimore defense. Hope he runs one back again, and you have him. They're using him as a receiver too a little bit. So
that's definitely a showdown play.
Yeah, a showdown play. Probably not for this one. Anyway, we can move on to another game people are going to love.
Yeah, they are. It's definitely an offensive upgrade for Houston with Bill O'Brien gone. So I always like playing teams with a new guy calling plays, new offensive coordinator, whatever. That I really feel they're going to try to put them in position to score some points. So I do like, for now I'm between Daniel Jones and I just can't do it. But so I'm probably going to have Watson as my cash game quarterback. That's just the way where I'm going to end up going. And I do like the Houston guys. I like Watson. I like David Johnson. It's going to be annoying because, I was playing him when he was much lower owned, and he's going to be pretty chalky this week. And I do like him, and I like Fuller. And on the Jacksonville side, that guy, that Robinson's apparently legit, So Robinson as a run back and G.J. Shark as a run back. It seems weird, you know what I mean, to have a 54-point total with these teams, but it is what it is. So there's projects to be points scored, and I'm pretty sure we know where they're coming from, right? I mean, like Robinson and Shark on the mostly, I suppose. Whatever happened to D.D. Westbrook, by the way? Who knows? And Houston, Fuller and David Johnson. I don't know about Cooks, because Cooks like 3K this week or something. Or they dropped Cooks like 4,100 or something like that.
4,100.
That's a scary one, but he can make that. He can make that with one pass. I mean, that's for sure. So yeah, I definitely have some interest in this game. It's going to be one of those games that's going to get ownership that it's going to be tough to get away from.
Yeah, I have to take some stands on some games that I'm going to be lower on. I'm going to be low on the Rams, like basically not playing any Rams offense. And I'm going to be lower in the field on this game.
On this game, okay.
Even though I get it, and I definitely, don't get me wrong, you're going to see a stack of mine with one stack probably, though. That's not much more, with Deshaun to Fuller or something. I like Fuller. I wouldn't mind getting some exposure to him on his own, but I don't love it. And I like other receivers in this price range when I measure them all out. So that's sort of where I'm running into issues between him and Shark. I think Brandon Cooks at low ownership is kind of interesting, but it's not that exciting. Honestly, the best play in this game might be Chenault for Jack.
I forgot about him.
He's probably the guy you want to be a little bit overweight on. One, he won't have the ownership. He's cheap, and he's got, he can get you safe in one play, and he can make a ton for you in 2 plays. So he's got talent. Maybe instead of playing the old Brandon Cooks, we should be playing this young Chenault. Although my biggest take in this game is just load up on the Texans defense. I have it in probably like 30% of my lineups. I don't really buy entirely into the Jaguars offense, even though I also don't think that Houston's defense is that.
Just so you know, be careful. I mean, because again, when I just kind of just ran numbers or whatever, Houston is popping like as a really, really.
I know they might be popular, but that's okay with me anyway, because I'm going to be using enough different guys, but also there's not that many. And sure, I'll jump over to some Miami defenses where I'm Houston, but there's not a lot. Some of these lower end defenses, like playing like the Raiders against a team that never turns the ball over, feels tough. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'd rather at least take the shot with Minshew throwing one of the, a couple picks or whatever he does, and honestly, I think you can make an argument for both defenses actually here. I'm not as high on the offenses in this game. I don't think it's going to be this shootout that everyone's wanting to see.
These games never are, these AFC South games.
If it is with Houston, it's going to be Houston playing from behind. It's not that's what's been happening. So I think Houston doesn't have that happen as much in this game, and I think you're going to see them take control and then just sort of manage the game.
Let's hope so.
I like Houston to win this game, by the way. So
I hope you're right.
And cover.
I hope you're right. No, the reason why I hope you're right, by the way, is yeah. People have to watch the other video to get this, but Houston's like a super aggro, like really super sharp survivor play this week, actually. Just because of the way the rest of my board works out for the rest of the year. Like if I get past with Houston this week, I mean I'll have a really, really strong entry with a lot of teams saved. So this is I'm really hoping you're right. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, want to go on to Las Vegas, Kansas City?
Yeah.
So, I suppose that Josh Jacobs is going to be in play again. The two, for my money, the two best plays from this game are the 2 tight ends, Kelsey and Waller. And, you talk about another project that we're on. We talk about, like, different types of plays that have made us, like, particularly more money than other types of plays, like what's been really good to me. I have just killed it with freaking Raiders, whether it be Cook or Waller or whatever against Kansas City for the last like 3 years, And one of them I got like 8th in the million with Jared Cook with 2 touchdowns. I had one with the guy got called back or something like that. So I'm gonna be plowing into Waller.
I had no idea about that. That's crazy. That's
yeah, and I'm gonna be plowing into Waller. I think he's definitely the best play. Kelsey looks great too, and there's other guys who play. Kittle's no slouch either. But I love Waller here. I think they're going to be either coming from behind or part of a shootout where they're going to him anyway. I think he's the best play in this game.
Yeah, I'm all over this game. This is the first thing I did was I built a thing without looking at anything, and I built it in about 10 seconds, and it was exactly the lineup that I wanted. Still my favorite lineup. I've doubled entered into a million things, and it's mostly this game stack. But I'm siding with Waller over Kelsey. Waller will be in probably he's my favorite tight end. But what's interesting this week is it's one of the rare weeks that even if you pay down at tight end, I like a lot of tight ends this week. Like I like Waller and Ertz, and I could see them both putting up like 25. Like I think that's a real possibility. I'm probably still not doing the double tight end things. I don't think you need to, but just to consider, it's not a week where I would laugh at that. But I do love Waller. I love Josh Jacobs. I really like the Chiefs passing game here. I think that Mahomes goes nuts. and he always does against the Raiders. I don't see any reason why that would change. I want to have a ton of Tyreek Hill. I don't think they can match up with him. I don't think they can match up with Sammy Watkins. I mean, I think they can match up with Sammy Watkins. If they do try and double Hill, I love Sammy Watkins. So these are the guys. And what's crazy is you're going to get these unowned receivers, and Tyreek Hill is a slate-breaking type of receiver. This is the kind of slate I want to play in, where everybody's sort of bunched up in this price range, where I could actually see Tyreek Hill being priced at $7 at near the same price as what's his name in this game, because it's such a good spot. I really like Tyreek Hill. And I'm going to have these, those stacks just like that. I'm going to be the only guy that might be below the field on in this game is, even though I like him fine, there's plenty of running backs, is Edwards-Helaire. And I'm also siding with the Chiefs passing game. So
we're not doing a BetQL thing, so I didn't get a chance to make my take.
Well, make it, no, but we're doing, this is going to go on BetQL too.
So this is my 83.9 star. Definitely going to beat the spread at least 50.1% of the time. Play of the week, and I love the Raiders plus the points here. I think they could actually win the game. It's just one of those things that always did. Like Kansas City's coming off of that statement freaking game on national TV, and I don't think they put up forth their best game. I think the Raiders are still underrated, and I think that they could actually run it down Kansas City's throat a little bit. They stay in the game, and I really like Vegas plus the points.
Yeah, well, the only, I get where you're coming from. The only thing that worries me about this whole thing, this whole game stack, is KC's defense has looked really good to me. Like really, really good. That's the only thing I would warn you. But I do agree that it's kind of interesting play. What? Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
I mean, I'm all over the game stack in general, so I hope you're right that the Raiders are right there. If the Raiders are right there, Mahomes is good. So you have to like Mahomes then, right? If you think the Raiders are going to be in the game with them, the Chiefs aren't going to put up 30 points here.
I don't know. Maybe it's a low-scoring game.
Why? They don't play low-scoring games. They played a low-scoring game they scored 26 only against New England, and New England played phenomenal. Like their defense was out of control. Good.
Why would I play Mahomes when I could play like geniuses like Daniel Jones and
All right, we'll get to that.
Can't believe I'm doing this. All right, we'll see.
All right. So we got Miami, San Francisco now, right?
Is Mostert playing?
We don't know. Assuming he doesn't, I like McKinnon. I'll say that. As of right now, I think we're assuming that Mostert's out.
I wasn't going to play any of this game, so I'll let you take this one away.
I like McKinnon. I still feel like he's the guy they wanted. Miami's been giving up plenty of points. McKinnon's been incredibly consistent. And we haven't seen a huge monster game, but all games, 20-plus fantasy points basically it was only last week against Philly. But, again, with a good workload against this Miami team in a high-total game where they should be playing with the lead, they should be pounding the ball like they always do. Sure, you're going to get some Jeff Wilson stolen carries and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I think that Jerick McKinnon is completely in play. I don't know how much I'll end up with of him. Right now I have about where the field is, so I don't know if I'll stick with that. But as of right now, that's where I'm sort of planning to be, right around 15 to 20%. The other side is weird. Like Gaskin is kind of interesting to me, and I just feel like this game is so ignored for another really high total. But I can't really find what I want to do with it. Like I don't feel excited about Parker or Williams. But I feel like we should have some interest in this game. I think people will play some Kittle, but I like the other tight ends a little bit better. Kind of like Gesicki a little bit. But I don't know. I'm not excited by it. I just feel like there's no – other than McKinnon, there's nobody I really feel like I'm going to have in double digits of my lineups. And maybe you throw one – I don't even know how you would stack this game. I guess – I don't know what you would do.
Listen. I also do think, by the way, that San Francisco, as they continue to get healthy, they're gonna be very dangerous as they get near the end of the year. I mean, they got really just decimated by injuries or whatever. But they ended up losing, I think, but they were pursuing pretty decently last week in their game, and so you usually hear me like tout Miami is kind of like a good play and stuff like that. This is kind of a rough spot for them. I think that San Francisco can be pretty physical with them. And, so I'm not having much of it. I did mention before that Kittle is a good play. He's always a good play. He's like the best freaking tight end in history, maybe. You know what I mean? It's very possible to say that. So he's always in play. But I'm just gonna go Waller instead. That's the best I can describe that.
Yeah, I think we're sort of on the same page here. There's just better plays. Like I get it. I get every play. I get the argument for Devontae Parker. I get the argument for the other guys in this game too, actually, because they're going to get usage. And one thing I'll say is like, if you look at Fitzpatrick this year, he's putting up numbers like as he always, well, not always, as he sometimes does. So is Devontae Parker, and I know it's not a good matchup. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. Whatever. I think it's McKinnon only for me.
All right, so I think it's hitting me like a beam of light right through the forehead. Okay, this Giants Dallas thing. So when I first looked at it, first rest of this is gold mine. You know what I mean? I'll take the Super Giants guys.
We're in the same beam right now. We're on the same. We're going to be on the same page, I think. Go ahead.
Pick the Giants game. Take Daniel Jones and Slayton and Ingram and Tate, Dallas flow chart, the whole thing. Maybe low own. Then somebody from freaking one of their big sites put a whole freaking thing. How that's like the way. I got a better idea. How about Dallas wins 37-0, and it's just Zeke and Dallas defense, and all the Giants chalk goes up in smoke. That's gonna be my new take on this game.
I love it. I want to be underweight on everybody in this game. I will take except for the guys who aren't going to be owned, of course. So I will take my little Michael Gallup and Golden Tate shots. I think that they're worth it because they're just not – they're the only parts of this game that aren't going to be owned. And I think that in Tate's case, he could catch 10 balls. And I think that in Gallup's case, he could catch 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to make a little – I like those guys a little bit. I like CeeDee Lamb a little bit. But, I'm not loving the price. And I'll be below the field on everything except for Zeke, I guess, other than the 2 guys I mentioned.
Yeah. Now, right now I have Slayton in my cash game, just to let you know. But again, we're talking about when we're recommending stuff for GPPs, just different, right?
And I have 10% or 15%, 10 to 15% Darius Slayton. It's not like I'm ignoring him. I have like 10% Amari Cooper in some of these stacks. I have 10% of CeeDee Lamb, or actually 5% of CeeDee Lamb. I have 15% of Gallup. I'm going to play like little pieces here. This is not where I'm focusing the majority of my attention.
31, 222, and 3. That'll be Zeke's line in this game. How about that?
31, 222, and 3? Oh my
yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
And Dak Prescott, 8 out of 11 for 91 yards. You know what I mean? He won't need to throw the ball at him. So
I like your angle on this a lot. I'm with you. I will have some of it, like I said, but I'm not going to be overweight. I do think that the one guy who does sort of stand out, it's hard because he's going to be owned, but I do like Ingram's price. And I do like him at tight end, but I just, again, I would like to be a little bit underweight on this game, or pretty significantly underweight.
Okay, so if you didn't like any or all of that, right? And if you get to like 4 o'clock, and you're like, okay, I saved it all. I'm just going to be rolling with the Giants and Cowboys, hoping whatever. Maybe this Indianapolis Cleveland thing is what ends up blowing up for everybody. So we played this guy a couple of times. You keep on mentioning him to me, and I always throw him in a little bit. Like I'm like, okay, if I got an extra 5,300 or 6,300 or whatever it is, I'll throw him in as a one-off or whatever it is. But maybe this is the day that T.Y. Hilton just destroys the slate. And remember, like Cleveland, they're okay, but their defense is not that great either. And maybe this game could be something. Maybe Phillip Rivers can throw 3 touchdowns to T.Y. Hilton. Maybe Beckham is actually back. Like Dallas is the get right spot, and now Beckham is now actually back and can go off. Yeah, everybody's going to be playing Kareem Hunt because what's his name's out. But maybe you just go right back. And you turned me on to this last week. I had 10%. This is the only reason I didn't lose all my money last week. I had like 10 to 15% of Mayfield and Beckham and all that Cleveland stuff because you turned me on to them, actually. I had no interest in them until you mentioned them to me. I thought it was going to be Dallas all over them and whatever it was. And maybe you could just keep doing that. Maybe it's just you could just keep playing Mayfield and Beckham. Yeah, Indianapolis' defense is not terrible, but hey, you're looking for something off the chalk. I mean, maybe this is the game that you can attack.
Yeah, I get it all. I definitely like both defenses in this game. Both quarterbacks will make mistakes. an uncanny number of fumble turnovers for both of these teams, for Phillip Rivers over the past 3 years, and then for any team that Baker Mayfield's been on, which has been Cleveland. I love T.Y. Hilton just because I'm going to take shots on this guy at the price that in general, I always like him way better at home. He's just way, way better historically.
Sure.
At home. But he's 4,900 and going to be unowned against a defense that I think is beatable, even though Ward is a decent coverage guy. They'll line him up all over the field. And I think if you just run it back, like you said, run Beckham right back. We should make it like this week. There should be like a run it back lineup. Like you play Beckham, you play Mixon, because none of these guys are getting owned. These are the guys who broke the slate last week.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not such a bad idea. The reason you don't usually like to run it back like that is because, yeah, it's unlikely they'll do it again. But more importantly, it's unlikely. It's more likely that everybody's going to overown them. That's not going to be the case in these situations. I also think Jarvis Landry's in play at 5K, but I just don't see myself getting to a ton of it. I get all the arguments. I'm just not going to stack the game. I think I'm just going to be sort of like with Beckham and Hilton, and then I will be overweight on Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about what you thought of that. I like that play a lot, actually.
He's worrying me a lot with his lack of receptions. I'll tell you that, though. I mean, overweight just means like 8% this week, and it does worry me with how they're using him a little bit. Not catching balls out of the backfield and basically Naheem Hines is still getting all that work. So that worries me a little bit, but I still want to take a shot.
All right. So what about this? What about this dude? So when I first look, I'm like, okay, how many D Johnsons are there, right? So Duke Johnson used to be on Cleveland, right? And now he's on Houston. They actually have to make a DU Johnson and DA Johnson. The only D Johnson left, I know there's a Deontay Johnson also, right, from Pittsburgh. Now, who's this D Johnson with the whole universe playing Kareem Hunt, right? I don't know. His last game, he had 13 rushes for 95 yards.
Weird game because they were blowing Dallas out, but at the same time, it wasn't like they were blowing them out. I mean, it ended up looking close because Dallas made a run at the end, but they did. I mean, I have to think that had something to do with it. And how do you play him at like he's 4,700, man? If he was 3K, I would be, hey, let's give him a crack, you know?
Yeah. So you tell me, so Kareem Hunt is just going to be a full workhorse back? Is that the story?
No. Well, that's the thing is I think there's an argument for maybe not playing as much Kareem Hunt as the field does. But I will tell you that he's phenomenally talented, and if things go his way, you're gonna want him. But this is a really good Colts defense, a really, really good Colts defense.
Right.
I like the Colts in this game. I like them. I actually think the Colts win this game. I don't know how to say handily, but I think they win by 7 or more points.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then like you said, Taylor's a good play.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I'm not going to be all over him, but I'm definitely.
No, I like it. I mean, I like it.
On Hunt as well, though. I just don't find myself.
This Robinson from Jacksonville's up to 6,700, huh?
Yeah, and what shocks me is that people still have a pretty good projected ownership on him. So that's the only reason I'm not more into that Robinson play. Do you want to run through? I'm just going to run through a few of we can go through positions like highest owned players. Want to do that real quick?
Yeah, sure.
It's sort of like this is a lot of stuff that to take over. So highest owned quarterback. I didn't mention like some of these guys because I don't always mention quarterbacks. I mentioned more of the stacks. Highest owned quarterbacks will be Lamar. Well, Lamar at like 15% is one of them. I have Bridgewater. Kyler Murray is my most used. I have some Roethlisberger. I didn't mention Carson Wentz. His price has gotten to the point where I'm kind of intrigued a little bit, especially because I like some of their other stuff, like Ertz and Sanders, but I don't really think I'm going to end up doing it. I just sort of throwing it out there. And then Mahomes would be my other favorite quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, again, my usual strategy. So Watson's going to be my cash game quarterback on in my 2+2 whatever, and then I'm just going to pair my all the quarterbacks are good values, really. I mean, like they're all gonna be fine. So I'm just going to probably play them wherever I'm game stacking, and that means I'm probably going to be under on Prescott. I might change. I might take your advice, right, about taking Mahomes. And your advice being, well, dude, if you think it's going to be close, why aren't you taking Mahomes? Boy, there should be a way that, like, if you have a take on a game for someone to recommend, like, where you should go if you have that one particular take on a game. That would be an interesting thing to do. Then that's where I'm going quarterback-wise. And what are my stacks? I'm telling you, I'm going to probably have, just for fun, I'm probably going to have one Phillip Rivers with T.Y. Hilton just to just for fun, and the Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, why not? Why not take a shot? My highest owned running backs are Zeke, Mike Davis, McKinnon, Antonio Gibson, Josh Jacobs, Le'Veon Bell, and even after all we said, I will have a little bit of Kareem Hunt, but that's about 15% because I really like the other guys.
My highest owned is going to be Zeke, and he's the best play. With respect to where you might get off the board, one of the guys that you mentioned was the guy that was right on that list for me, and I'm glad you mentioned him before I did, and that's going to be James Conner. I think he's a really, really good play, and the other one it's going to be very difficult for anybody to play, really, is Joe Mixon. So I don't know how he's going to get there, if you want to know the truth, but I kind of don't care. I'm probably going to play him. That'll be my.
Well, here's the argument for your play sheets. Like last week, Baltimore played Washington. Antonio Gibson put up 21 fantasy points.
Yep.
Joe Mixon has had a lot more of the workload than he does. So there you go. There's your route.
Yep.
And I'll have like 10% Mixon. I have my running backs spread out. The guys who I have a lot of, I have like 50% of, and then I'll spread out some of the other guys. All right, receivers. For me, it is DJ Moore, number one. And there's a whole bunch of guys who I have in similar things that are sort of going more based on stacks. Zacchaeus would probably be the next most notable. But then you've got Russell Gage, who I like a lot, Tyreek Hill, T.Y. Hilton, Deontay Johnson, Darius Slayton. I know he's going to be popular, but I can use him in some of my other spots. I think he's going to get a lot of work. But I still probably be below the field on him. And then I guess mostly it's focusing more on that Carolina-Atlanta game as opposed to the Giants, Dallas, and as opposed to somewhat, and then Tyreek Hill, obviously.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I think the game that's going to go off of the ones that we that are like reasonable, like get the Cleveland for a second, is going to be that Kansas City game.
We need it to score quick. That's what has to happen though. If there's no score like at the end of the first quarter,
you need the Raiders to score quick.
Probably, but if the Raiders are even coming back, at least you'll still get Jacobs work out of the backfield and get a ton of Waller.
Right.
And probably the way that they're going to do it, if they're going to score quick for KC, is they usually go for those big plays pretty early. So the problem is that the way the Raiders play, if they do score quick, they want to ground and pound. That's what they want to do. I just think every team knows they want to do that, and they're not going to let them, especially when they're playing from behind. So. But you're going to see the Raiders try to run the ball a lot, so that's the only part that worries me about it. But
I like your idea of Antonio Gibson. One of those three, Gibson, Logan Thomas, or McLaurin, I think are going to have a good game. I think they're going to be coming from behind. I think the Rams are pretty good game managers, man. You know what I mean? Like on the one hand, it looked like they were in trouble against the Giants. Yet on the other hand, I never really thought the Giants were going to win. You know what I mean? Like you always like kind of feel that the Rams are kind of in control. Even like the weird game at the beginning of the year against Dallas, where it just always seemed like they were just in total control of the game, even though like they got, I don't know, it was kind of weird. So I think that the Rams are going to handle them pretty easily, but I don't know if they're going to have a big enough lead where they're Washington come back. I guess so I don't know. I do like those three guys from Washington, and McLaurin will be my kind of an off the borders type wide receiver. I am going to play that. I'm going to play that Zacharias guy. But I like your idea of what's his name, the two pivots, right? One of the other game, like the Dallas guy, and the Wilson, is that his name? And the other one in the same game, you just play Russell Gage. So what do you think of Gurley?
No interest.
Okay.
I just have seen too many split carries at times where it doesn't make sense to have split carries. Even if it's a good spot, I want to be like, he's going to have some ownership, and I just like too many other running backs is really the truth. I do think that Cedric Wilson as a long shot tournament play is like no one is going to play this guy who just like 1 week removed from him putting up 27. And this is, the game everyone's after. And even in last week against Cleveland, he still had 6 targets. It's not like he had no work. You know what I mean? He's going to be out there. He's going to have opportunities to make something happen, especially if they're down. But also if they're up, like you might see him on the field instead of Gallup at times or instead of CeeDee Lamb some of the time. Just give that guy a long shot tournament play. He's worth it.
Yeah, I think that I really do think the Dallas game is going to disappoint people. And I'll tell you something else. I think there are routes where Zeke disappoints people too. I really do. I think that I think you're right, man. I think that the Giants defense is not the worst. They had really one bad game. That San Francisco game got away from them. But I don't know, man. I'm not a believer in that Giant game. I'm just not.
Yeah. If you're gonna go for, I'm telling you, the one guy who should get 1 million targets here is actually. I'm starting to lean. Maybe that's just the play you make if you play that game. Just play Golden Tate instead of Shepard. It doesn't feel great, but
instead of Ingram,
instead of Shepard.
Oh, I know, but like, wouldn't Ingram be a better play?
Oh, I like Ingram. Well, Ingram's going to be more popular. I'm just saying Golden Tate.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, just speaking of that, just real quick to get to tight ends because we'll get out of here in just a minute. But favorite tight ends for me are Waller, Andrews, Kelsey. Waller first, and then it's Kelsey, Andrews, Thomas, Ingram, and Ertz in a very, very congested order, which I need to probably make a little bit of a stance to. I think I'll probably lean towards Ertz.
Hey, are you feeling as though that we're playing, or not we're playing, but like we're playing a lot of the same guys every week? I mean, I know I feel that way. I feel that way that I'm going back to the same guys.
The same players you had played before?
Yeah.
I think it's natural because you sort of know them and you sort of know what happens.
But even with the projections, like every week it's the same thing. You know what I mean? They all look the same. I mean, like every week Zeke looks good. Every week Derrick Henry looks good, even though he's not playing. Every week Waller and what's his name look good. I guess that's because they're maybe the matchups are not as big of a deal.
Well, but there is matchup stuff. Like, I mean, this week Mike Davis is going to be crazy owned, whereas he actually always would have been pretty high owned against anybody. But this is a special week because of Atlanta. I think the matchups do matter. I just don't think I don't think they matter. I think people actually think they matter more than they really do.
Okay.
But Edwards-Helaire, for example, if they were in a different matchup, would not be 20% owned this week.
Right.
And
right.
Things like that. I mean, where you get weird with it is the Kareem Hunt thing, because they're going up against like an incredible run defense, and just being below those guys feels a little bit better to me. But I really like the idea of my long shot plays of Gibson and Le'Veon Bell, assuming that game plays. I really think Le'Veon Bell could have a monster game here. I know it sounds really weird.
I honestly didn't even know he was still playing.
He's been hurt. I mean, this guy's 5.1K, and like even last year when they were so absolutely awful, he was still like one of the 5 or 6 like most highest usage running backs. I'm just gonna take that, and you're gonna have to use him against Arizona. Like
maybe that is the what do you call it, the galaxy brain play? You know what I mean? Maybe that's it, because we always played these guys against Arizona like every freaking week, right?
Yeah.
So what's wrong with Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, exactly. Especially just the workload alone is enough, and
I'm doing it. I'm totally doing it.
Yeah, if he's in, you know what? You want him to get something nobody has, play Le'Veon
Bell. There it is. Screw David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell in cash, and nothing. Oh.
Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Gibson.
There it is.
All right, guys. Hey, Sheets, any final thoughts for the people? I guess we kind of gave a lot of hot takes already, but any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, that was it. By the way, that was the winner.
The winner of the Titans defense?
No, Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, Le'Veon. Le'Veon's the winner. All right, let's go Le'Veon. Let's go Le'Veon or Antonio Gibson. One of you guys get me home this week. We're gonna have
it's Le'Veon Beller.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not getting owned this week, that's for sure. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Sheets has got something out there. I'm like, who are these names over there? He's got his MMA stuff. I don't even know who these. I've never heard of one of those names before.
I haven't either, so don't worry about it.
So, of course, Sheets is going to win probably whatever the big prize is for MMA this week.
Yeah, Edgar in cash.
Guys, hey, thanks for hanging in there with us. For Sheets, for everyone at BetQL, I'm BobbyFi saying we will see you at the top of the leaderboards.